Better to die with honor than live in shame. Waves crash. Battle cries rise. On the prow of a dragon ship stands a lone woman, spear in hand, hair flying like fire in the storm. She is Lagertha, Shieldmaiden, queen, warrior. Her name lives where history and legend meet. The sea crashes endlessly against the rocks of Norway's jagged coast, the rhythm of waves like a war drum echoing through the fjords. A storm rolls across the horizon, clouds bruised and heavy, the wind tearing salt spray into the air. Out of the mist, a single longship cuts across the waves. Its prow rises like the head of a dragon, wood polished smooth by countless voyages. Upon it stands a solitary figure, tall, unflinching, her hair unbound and flying like a banner of fire in the storm. In her hand, she holds a spear. On her arm, a shield glints in the fleeting flash of lightning. She is both woman and warrior, a being carved out of defiance. Her name is Lagertha, a shield maiden of such ferocity and presence that her story has outlived empires. She has been called wife, queen, ruler, slayer of kings, savior of Ragnar Lothbrok himself. And though her tale comes to us through centuries of mist, preserved by the Danish chronicler Saxo Grammaticus in the 12th century, it has never loosened its grip upon the imagination of the North. Here begins the saga of Lagertha, part history, part legend, yet entirely unforgettable. A land in chaos. In the Gala Valley of western Norway, the winter wind howls down from the mountains, carrying with it the smell of smoke and ash. The year is lost to memory, but the chaos is preserved in story. Frey, the king of Sweden, has crossed into Norway with ruthless ambition. His armies descend like wolves upon the land, pillaging villages, burning halls, and slaughtering those who resist. Among his conquests is the house of Sigurd, ruler of the valley and grandfather to the young Ragnar Lothbrok. Sigurd is cut down, his blood soaking the cold earth. Yet Frey's cruelty extends beyond death. He seizes the women of Sigurd's household, noble daughters, widows, wives, and drags them away, forcing them into shame and degradation. His victory is not only military, but symbolic, a strike at the very honor of his enemy's line. But such deeds cannot remain hidden. Word spreads like fire on the wind, carried across fjord and mountain until it reaches Ragnar. Still young, still rising, Ragnar is already known for his cunning and courage. When he hears of Frey's crime, his blood burns with fury. This is no simple feud. It is an outrage against his bloodline, an insult that demands vengeance. Ragnar gathers warriors, men hardened by sea and steel, and swears to reclaim his family's honor. His ships set out across the waves, dragon prows cutting through foam and spray. Yet when he arrives in Norway, he finds something unexpected. Among the captives, women who should have been broken, shamed, or silenced, he finds rebellion. Clad in men's clothing, armed with spear and sword, they refuse submission. They will not wait for deliverance. They will fight for themselves. And at their head stands a woman whose presence commands both awe and terror. Lagertha, whose courage is said to outshine that of any man, moves like fire across the battlefield. Her hair, loose upon her shoulders, streams in the wind as though it were itself alive. Each stroke of her spear drives fear into her foes. Each cry of defiance rallies those beside her. Saxo Grammaticus, centuries later, would call her a skilled Amazon. But to the men who fought beside her that day, she was more than words could contain. She turned captives into warriors, shame into vengeance, despair into triumph. With Ragnar and his men strengthened by her shield maidens, Frey's armies falter, the tide of battle turning. The humiliation he sought to inflict is shattered, and in its place rises a legend, the legend of Lagertha, the trial of the bear and the hound. With victory won, Ragnar stood taller than ever before, his vengeance fulfilled. Yet even greater than the thrill of triumph was the memory of Lagertha, her unyielding spirit, her ferocity in battle, her presence like a goddess upon the field. Ragnar, who had faced kings and monsters, found himself captivated. He sought her as his wife. The journey to her homestead in the Gala Valley was not a raid, but a pilgrimage of desire. Yet when he arrived, he found no easy welcome. At the gates of her hall stood not a line of warriors, but two guardians of terrifying might. A bear of monstrous size and a hound whose eyes glowed with savage hunger. The beasts were no mere pets. They were trials, tests set not for the faint of heart. The bear roared, its massive frame shaking the ground, and charged. Ragnar met it head-on, spear poised. With strength and skill, he drove the weapon deep into the creature's chest. Blood spilled like a river as the beast collapsed, its final cry echoing through the valley. The hound came next, swift and furious. Ragnar, bereft of his spear, grappled it with his bare hands. Teeth tore into flesh, but he held fast, choking the life from the beast with raw strength until it lay dead at his feet. Only after these ordeals did Lagertha reveal herself. Her eyes studied him not as a maiden awaiting rescue, but as a queen judging worth. By slaying the beasts, Ragnar had proven his strength, yet perhaps also his desperation. She accepted him as husband, but the foundation of their union was forged in trial and mistrust. They wed, and together they had 3 children, 2 daughters, whose names history has forgotten, and a son, Fridleif. Yet beneath their passion lay suspicion. Ragnar believed that Lagertha herself had set the beasts upon him, that her cunning was as sharp as any blade. Their marriage, though fierce, was brittle, bound by both desire and doubt. The queen's return to wartime moved swiftly, and Ragnar's ambitions carried him away from Norway. Civil strife tore Denmark apart, and Ragnar, ever the restless warrior, answered the call of battle. In Denmark, he rose higher still, marrying Thora Borgarjortur, daughter of a Swedish jarl, and leaving Lagertha behind. Years passed, wars came and went. Ragnar's fortunes, once ascendant, began to waver. Surrounded by enemies, threatened on all sides, he reached across the sea for aid. His call returned to the valley he had left behind, to the woman he had once cast aside, and Lagertha answered. She came not as the spurned wife, not as a forgotten queen, but as a sovereign in her own right. Her fleet stretched across the horizon, 120 ships, their sails black as storm clouds. Each vessel bore warriors loyal not to Ragnar, but to her, men and women alike bound by her command. Saxo claims she came out of lingering love for Ragnar, that her heart still carried the embers of passion. But perhaps it was love of war, or love of sovereignty, that truly drew her forth. Whatever her reason, her return was a storm upon the sea. Her ships rode into battle, drums beating, shields flashing in the sunlight. Once more the Shieldmaiden sailed into the heart of chaos, ready to decide the fate of kings. She stood at the prow, a vision of iron and flame, her hair streaming in the wind. For the warriors of Norway, her presence was more than leadership. It was legend made flesh. Her name alone carried weight enough to turn fear into fury, and fury into victory. The counterstrike. The battle raged with fury. Ragnar's armies, weakened and weary, fought desperately against their foes. His son Sigurd was struck down, blood spilling across the battlefield. Warriors faltered, their courage broken, their lines bending toward collapse. Then came the strike of Lagertha. With precision born of instinct, she wheeled her fleet behind the enemy lines. Her forces struck from the rear, shields locked, spears thrusting in deadly rhythm. The enemy, caught between 2 storms, broke apart. Panic spread through their ranks as Lagertha's warriors pressed them, each blow carving deeper into their weakness. Her ferocity was unmatched. Saxo writes that her spirit was matchless, blazing brighter than that of any man. Where others wavered, she surged. Where others hesitated, she struck. The battle, once nearly lost, turned in a single motion. Ragnar, who had called her for aid, now owed his very survival to the woman he had once abandoned. The queen without a king. When the war was done, Lagertha returned not to obscurity, but to power. She had wed again, yet even this union could not contain her. Her husband, though lord of his lands, was no equal to her spirit. In their hall, quarrels turned to bitterness. Bitterness to rage. Lagertha, ever prepared, concealed a spearhead within her gown. At the height of their dispute, she struck, driving the weapon into his heart. He fell, and with his death, she seized his lands, his wealth, his throne. Saxo records it with simplicity. She thought it pleasanter to rule without her husband than to share the throne with him. And so she did. She reigned alone, sovereign not by marriage but by her own hand. A queen without a king, a ruler who bowed to no one, Lagertha stood as proof that her fate was hers alone to command. History or legend, yet the question lingers. How much of this tale is truth, and how much is legend? Saxo Grammaticus, writing in the 12th century, lived centuries after these events. His pen blended history with myth, moral lessons with pagan echoes. His warrior women, fierce as Amazons, may have been symbols as much as flesh. Scholars suggest Lagertha may be more than a queen. In the Gola Valley, where Saxo sets her tale, the goddess Thorgerdur Holgabudur was worshipped, a figure of storms, fertility, and war. Others see in her the shadow of the Valkyries, divine maidens who chose the fates of warriors on the battlefield. Even her name, Lagertha, suggests ties to cultic sites and goddesses of power. Some argue she may represent the memory of a cultic leader, a priestess queen whose authority blurred the line between religion and politics. Women in Norse society, though rarely kings, wielded significant influence over land, inheritance, and even warbands. Could Saxo's Shieldmaiden be a Christianized retelling of this older, sacred authority? Archaeology adds more shadows than light. Graves unearthed in Sweden and Norway reveal women buried with swords, shields, and riding gear, honored as warriors, not merely wives. One such grave in Burka, long thought male, was proven female by DNA testing. Was Lagertha an echo of such women, remembered and mythologized across generations? Perhaps she was mortal, perhaps divine, perhaps both. The line between woman and myth in the north is thin, and Lagertha walks it like a blade, shimmering, uncertain, unforgettable. The legacy of the Shieldmaiden. Whatever her origins, Lagertha has outlived the centuries. She has sailed across time itself, carried in the sagas, reborn in novels, sung in operas, reimagined in the glow of modern television. She has become a symbol of strength, of defiance, of the fire that women carried in an age remembered too often only for men. In her, the North remembered its women not only as mothers and queens, but as warriors who fought, ruled, and carved their names into stone and story. Her spear remains poised, her shield forever raised. Legends are longships, carrying their cargo through the waves of centuries. Lagertha's ship sails still, through time and memory, her name whispered like a storm across the sea.
Please subscribe and look for more documentaries at Swords and Shadows.